Okay, let's go ahead and get started because this will take quite a while. Please stop me if you have any questions. As I mentioned last week, this week we're going to go over we're going to go over the May comprehensive problem. Make sure you both have your audio connected so that you can hear everything that's going on. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Let me verify how to get audio with the app real quick. Okay. Okay. So, Jennifer, it looks like you got audio now. Looks like Chelsea's got audio. Great. I'm glad I had my iPad handy. So, can you both now hear me? Yeah, I chatted with tech support for Cisco, who technically owns WebEx, and they said they're working on that glitch with Chromebook, but I did not know about it. But so now that I know there's a glitch, I will definitely let students know at the beginning of the quarter that have Chromebooks that they need to download an app. So now that that is all figured out, let me go back to sharing my screen and get everything back up that I need. See, I've never used a Chromebook. Can you download apps? Let's see. If I unmuted you, Chelsea. Can you hear? Uh, okay. Let's see. I've never had a Chromebook. I've had iPads, laptops, and then my cell phones, but not. There you go, Chelsea. You should be able to hear everything now. Okay. I just muted you again. Can you still hear? Okay, Chelsea, can you still hear everything? Jennifer, give us a minute while we try to work out the little kinks. Yeah, if you can download the app to Chromebook, that may be a good idea. Just so you don't have to use your mobile device next quarter. So while I wait. So basically, this conference is going to basically cover May's comprehensive. This has trickier assignments to it. The transactions are worded a little bit weird, and that usually throws students off. So we're going to go over the ones that are more complicated just to make sure that when you get to that point on your May comprehensive, that you still have the knowledge that you need to be successful on these projects. The directions, pretty similar to April's. Chart of accounts, it is a lot longer this time because we're going to be purchasing more assets. We're going to go over about 7 transactions. Those are the ones that the students miss every quarter. Go over some adjusting entries, the closing entries, make sure you remember that process. Financial statements, again, those are nothing new. And then a wrap up where we go over part of the final exam as well and things you need to know for that. So for the icebreaker, honestly answer the following regarding April's comprehensive problem. I have looked at it, I have started it, I have completed it, or I'm completely stuck and have not looked at it. I'm completely stuck and I need help. You've looked at it, okay. Looks like Chelsea still having technical difficulties. So let me write myself a note. Okay. So it is, if you take all of it at once, it's completely overwhelming, and I know that. So when you start working on it, make sure that you take your time, read each transaction carefully. So that should help decrease some of the stress. So as I mentioned, the chart of accounts is a lot larger. We are buying several more assets. And so we have the accumulated depreciation and the expense accounts that go along with it. Again, it's nothing that we haven't done, except this time you'll have to calculate the straight line depreciation for all of your assets yourself, which is why I hit on it last week. You had in your after conference assignment straight line depreciation, and you'll have straight line depreciation again in this week's conference as well. So just to make sure. that you successfully know how to complete it. So directions, the first thing you have to do is enter in the amounts from April's post-closing trial balance. So the last form you have for April, that is going to have the amounts that you'll need to enter in to May's general ledger so that it shows as the beginning balances. So I'm actually going to give you those amounts. That way you know at the end of April if your answers are correct, and that way you have a good start for May's comprehensive. Journal entries, ledger, trial balance, the worksheet, adjusting entries, those are all like what we've been doing all quarter. So again, it is nothing new. Financial statements, it's going to be pretty much the same as April. And then again, closing entries, pretty standard, except the revenue account, you're going to have two different revenue accounts to close, both to income summary. So that's really the only difference you'll have with your closing entries. So you'll have, I believe, registration fees, and then you will have a second revenue account. And so we will go over that at the end. So I can also send you this picture via email. That way you have the balances. So this is basically your post-closing trial balance for April. This is what the amounts should be when you finish April's comprehensive problem. So would you like me to send you a copy of this picture so you have it? Okay. Some students do screenshots, some just write them down quickly, but I will write myself a note to send you that picture. Okay, that way I will not forget. So that should go out to you tonight along with the passcode for the after conference assignment. So that way you will have that. So these are the amounts that you're going to enter in as May's beginning balance. And so if you go back to the week 6 homework, the week 7 homework, where you're doing the chapter 6 work, you'll see how to record beginning balances. It's really not hard. You're going to put so you would put April 30th as the date. In the description, you would put balance, and then over in the balance column, that is when you would put the amount. And so if you notice, these are only for the permanent accounts. The temporary accounts, which is drawing down through all of your expenses, should be closed when you do your closing entries for April. So are there any questions as of right now? Okay. So just like with the adjusting entries, the journal entries can be tricky just because we're doing some new things. We're having some transactions where we have to get rid of a payable and use an expense account as well as cash in one transaction, and it's not something we've done. So email me or text me with questions. My phone is with me at all times. Emails come directly to my cell phone as well as the texts. And the texts also go to email. And so that is, please, if you email me at midnight, more than likely I'm not going to respond until 9-ish the next morning. So it depends. If I'm awake in the middle of the night and I see it, I may respond. So don't forget to use the previous balance amounts, which is April's post-closing balance. Don't forget to use those amounts. If you do not, you will be off by a lot and you won't get many points. You'll probably get about half the points for it. And then you would only have a week to redo it plus complete the final exam. So If you need me to look at it, if you're nervous about where you're standing, like with April's, send me the file via email, ask me to look at it, and I'm more than happy to do that. If you need to set up a one-on-one meeting to go over questions, that's fine as well. Just let me know what will help you. So again, the transactions are essentially what we've been doing all quarter, no surprises. And then we're going to go through the 7 transactions that I think are the most confusing for students based on the percentage of time that they have been missed by students. So the first one is in order to provide snacks for guests on a 24-hour basis, Knight signed a contract with Snack Attack. Snack Attack will install vending machines with food and drinks and pay a 10% commission on all sales. Estimated payments are made at the beginning of each month. Knight received a check for $200. Check for $200. The estimated commission on sales for May. So what accounts are we going to use for that? So he's already received a check. So since he's received a check, it's not going to be accounts receivable. So that leaves it's either A or C. Exactly. That is our second revenue account that we're going to have to close at the end of the period. Yeah, you can see why this one is commonly missed. It's wordy, it's long, and it's confusing. And unfortunately, we will have to have an adjusting entry. So you have to read very carefully. And this is actually the first transaction on your assignment for May. And surprisingly, you actually do need all of this information because the commission and how much the check is now, you will need to know for the adjusting entry. So it's going to give you a lot of information that you don't need at this particular moment in time, but you will need it later on in the problem. So it's kind of like when you purchase the fishing boats in April. It gives you everything you need for the depreciation right there in that transaction, but you'll need that information later on. So not one of my favorite transactions, but okay, for this one, we paid for May's programming on the new digital satellite system. So how would we do satellite system? Exactly. A lot of students will say satellite programming because they're thinking of it as an asset. It's more like your telephone bill or your electricity or your cable bill. It's not something you have, it's something that you're paying to use. So, next one, this is it's one of the most common ones that are missed. Knight's office manager returned $100 worth of supplies to Gordon Office Supply, and Knight received a $100 reduction on the account. So we know it's on account, so it's not going to be it's not going to be the first two because that's cash. Exactly. We're returning office supplies. A lot of students usually use office supplies expense, but since we're returning an actual asset, it's just office supplies. Okay, paid May's insurance premium for the new camp of $1,000. So since we're paying, it's not going to be in accounts payable. So it would either be prepaid or insurance expense. Again, this is one of the most commonly missed ones. Great job. You're actually exactly correct. It's insurance expense. A lot of students see paid insurance premium, so they automatically assume it's prepaid. But we paid 6 months in April, so we're not paying any more now. So any questions on the transactions we've gone through right now? Okay. And again, the video should be available tomorrow if you need to rewatch it during week 11 when you're actually working on your project. Again, very commonly missed transaction. Knight paid $40 for each 1-year subscriptions to Fishing Illustrated, Fishing Unlimited, and Fishmaster. The magazines are published monthly. How much are we going to record this transaction for? Exactly. When you're getting in a rush, if you're trying to do this last minute and you see $40, students usually use that as the amount. They're just quickly reading the transactions. They're not paying attention to what it actually says, and they use the $40 amount for the transaction. So you are exactly right. It's going to be 120 since you purchased 3 separate subscriptions. This is a very lovely one that probably about 99% of the students miss. Your paid wages to fishing guides of 30,000. Don't forget wages payable. So, what accounts are we going to use? Or what do you think we're going to use? Exactly. There's going to be a leftover balance from April. We have to use that balance along with wages expense to get to the $30,000 we're going to pay our employees, and then we're going to use cash. And so normally students just use I can't talk tonight, wages, expense, and cash. So typically that is what students use, but you're right, it's the wages expense, wages payable, and cash. Okay, the last transaction from the actual monthly transactions we're going to go over. A guest became ill and was unable to stay for the entire week. A refund was issued in the amount of $1,000. So what would we use to show that we're refunding money to a customer? Exactly. No matter whether the customer paid on account or whatever, we're going to refund them the cash. And if you've looked through April, you'll see that our clients don't pay on account. They go ahead and give us the cash. Any questions on any of the main transactions? Okay. Adjusting entries. Let's go over again the formula for straight line depreciation. Again, you can go to the appendix of chapter 5 and look at the formula there as well. So we have our purchase price, take away our salvage value, which gives us our book value. The book value divided by useful life gives us our annual depreciation. But for the purpose of this project and most businesses, the accounting periods run monthly. So you would divide by 12 to find the monthly depreciation. So it's a pretty straightforward equation that we need to use. So here is where we come back into the first transaction where we have extra information. The total vending commission sales were $2,300 for the month. 10% if commission is earned on these sales. So what is 10% of $2,300? Right. How much did we have from the first? How much did we receive a check for at the beginning of the month? Go back to the slide if I need to. Okay. We were given a check for $200 at the beginning of the month. So how much should our adjusting entry be for? If we were supposed to get 230, but we only got 200. Exactly. This is where a lot of students mess up. They'll do the full $230 or they'll do the $2,300. We are actually only going to adjust for $30. And we will not adjust the cash account. We may correct the cash account from time to time, but we never adjust cash. So you're actually going to use the revenue account associated with vending sales and accounts receivable, because the vending company still owes us $30. So that's going to go into accounts receivable while we wait for them to pay us. So does that adjusting entry make sense? Okay. This is some of these. Okay. These are taken straight out of your textbook. So we're having information from April's transaction plus information regarding the additional boats purchased in May. So straight line depreciation is used for the 10 boats purchased on April 2nd for $60,000. We've already depreciated that once for $1,000. The useful life of those assets are 5 years, and there's no salvage value. So we took a full month in April, which is $1,000. Straight line depreciation is also used for the 2 boats purchased in May. So you're only going to make one adjusting entry for the entire boats. So for 12 boats. So April's depreciation was $1,000. Our new boats are purchased for $9,000. There's no salvage value, and it has a useful life of 5 years. So we would have to do the depreciation calculation for it. So we would have oops. Okay. For some reason, it's not letting me type in the chat box. So, very bad computer writing. So we would have our 9,000 divided by 5, which is, I believe, 1,800. Gives you 1,800. Whew, I got horrible penmanship. And then you would divide that by 12 to get the monthly depreciation for the new boats. So that would be 150. So you would have the depreciation for the month of May for the boats would be the 1,000 plus the 150. So you would just do one transaction to total boat, to one transaction total for all 12 boats. So does that, exactly. So does that adjusting entry make sense? Okay, because we already know how much it was in April. So just had to figure out the new information. Again, straight line depreciation. We purchased a surround system, purchased for $3,600, no salvage value, useful life of 5 years. How much would we depreciate it for 1 month? So again, we would break out the calculator and do 3,600 divided by 5. Exactly. So you're kind of seeing a pattern here with most of the adjusting entries, they're all going to be depreciation. The next one, we have to depreciate the big screen TV. And this time we actually have a salvage value. So we would have to do our 8,000 minus 800 before we could even divide by the useful life. So this is a little different than what we're used to with the straight line depreciation. So normally the salvage value has been 0. So we would have 7,200 divided by 8 gives us $900 a year. And then the 900 divided by 12 exactly is $75. Here we have the building. Buildings usually have a useful life of around 30 to 50 years, depending how old it is when you purchase it. So for this one, we would have the 530,000 and take away the 50,000 and then divide that by 50 and then 12. Exactly. So you got the hang of straight line depreciation. So not too worried about that. Again, on your after conference assignment, there is calculation of straight line depreciation just to give you more practice. See, they didn't see. I don't know what is taught in other classes, and when I took marketing through Harrison, we didn't do depreciation. So at least you have a firm grasp on it. This is another transaction, our second to last adjusting entry. Economic marketing. I don't even think I took that in my master's program. That was years ago, though. So on April 2nd, Knight paid $9,000 for insurance during the 6-month camping season. May's portion of the premium was used up. How do we determine how much this month's depreciation is? I'm sorry, this month's adjusting entry is. There are multiple ways. I thought of one way, students thought of another way. Exactly. When I did this last quarter with students, they came up with the 9,000 divided by 6, and I'm like, honestly, I never thought about doing it that way. My thinking was just go back and look at how much April's depreciation was. So kind of like how in math, there's no real one way to arrive at a set answer. There's multiple different ways, multiple different formulas you can use. Same thing in this class. As long as you get the right answer, however you get there is perfectly fine with me. So I honestly, for some reason, after teaching the class for 10 years, had never even thought of it. Exactly. So that's how much you're going to adjust your insurance for at the end of May. The last adjusting entry. This one throws students a lot, mainly because they get the first part of the problem. They get the initial recording wrong. So he received his May. Aha, see, this is the problem. That's usually what students say. You're only depreciating for 1 month of magazines. He received 3 magazines. So we paid $120. That is for 12 months. We only need to depreciate 1 month's worth of magazines. So we're going to have $120 divided by 12 months. And that is going to give us A. That's why I put this one in, because we're only adjusting for 1 month. So, yeah, I know, but students, oft, as you demonstrated, they usually miss this one at first. So, which is why I throw it in. Okay, closing entries. Almost have made it through. Yeah, it usually takes an hour to an hour and a half for this conference, depending on the number of students. So everything is standard for the closing entries. Like I mentioned, when you close your revenue accounts, you're going to close your 2 revenue accounts. You're going to close registration fees and vending commission as well. So you would debit both of those accounts and then credit income summary. So that would just be one transaction. And then everything else is standard. Any questions on any of the adjusting entries or the closing entries? Okay. Again, I'm more than happy to look over anything if you need me to. Excuse me. Financial statements. Everything is exactly like it is in chapter 6. No surprises. So you can definitely look at pages 197 to 199 if you get stuck on the formatting of any of the financial statements. Nothing new, no surprises. which at this point in the course, you really do not need any surprises. So, April Comprehensive is due this Sunday. May's is due the following week on the 18th. I will email you the passcode as well as the picture of the trial balance amounts. So you have those. The final begins on Monday, March 19th, and it is due by Sunday, March 25th. You have 2 hours from the time you hit start. This is one of those times where you cannot start the exam, walk away from your computer, and expect to come back and start it again later. Once you hit start, you have 2 hours right there. You have to finish it in one sitting. So if you have to, get rid of the kids, get rid of the significant other, go to a library. It is a final exam. There are, let me go into our class. Let's see. I do not remember how many questions there are. In the modules, there are 2 different final reviews for it. Actually, there is only one final review. I'm going to verify the final review that's in there versus the one that I have that covers just the information you need to know. Because usually what Harrison puts in covers every course objective from week 1 to week 11. So I want to recheck it to compare it. So this is what the final exam review looks like right now. So I'm going to verify it to make sure there's no extraneous information. So, but let me check on how many questions. I have not checked on that since they redid the class for this semester. It's 130 points. It is, let's see. It is usually multiple choice, true, false. There are times where they're going to ask you to calculate. They're going to give you a partial worksheet and they're going to ask you to calculate the net income or ask you to calculate the amount of capital. So let's see. So the first several questions are true, false. My computer is slowing down. When I send you the code, I will let you know how many questions there are and if there's any surprises. My guess, based on what I'm seeing, is there's true, false. There are a couple questions that they give you the information, and if you go back to weeks 2 and 3, where you have the lines where it gives you the information and then you have to calculate, they add $4,000 in supplies. So I'm going to go through and redo the review sheet, and I'm going to put specific problems to look at to correspond back to what we have been doing over the quarter. So you have a reference and a frame of mind to work from. There are, however, only 13 questions. So you have 2 hours to do 13 questions. So it shouldn't be too bad, but it looks like there's 2 multiple choice and everything else is pretty much short answer. I need to work through this and look and see if I need to upload anything additional to help you guys. It is 130 points. It is, I believe, let me pull up the syllabus. I believe it is 20% of your final grade. It's 15%. They lowered it. So the final is 15% of your final grade. But again, I'm going to go through tomorrow, hopefully, and exactly, and try to line up the problems with homework problems that we've done so you know exactly what to look for and what kind of problems to expect. That way there are no surprises. Do you have any questions over anything? Okay, that is really all I had. I mean, again, you can always text me, email me. Calling me is not always the best option just because I live out a little bit and cell reception is not the best. And the number you guys have goes directly to Google. So based on what you've done so far in the class, you should be fine with everything. But some students are struggling. So I'm just going to make sure I make the final exam and everything, the review, more concrete based on what we've done in the class. So that should be up tomorrow. Yes, I love business communications. It's a fun class, but there is a lot of work. I've heard the final project. Students have trouble with the final project. When they do the written portion, they don't put in everything. Just communicate with your instructor. Make sure you look at the examples. I know there's examples from past students in there, or at least there usually is. So definitely take a look at those. Because you have to talk about social media and a couple other things. And students usually forget bits and pieces of that in their paper, which lowers their grade. Okay. Yeah. So definitely ask again, because I could have sworn there's usually examples up there. So I can also find out, I can email her because I know who the instructor is, so it's not that big because there's only one instructor for Business Comm Online. So I'll email her and ask her if she has any examples up as well, or if when she's planning to put examples up. And then I'll let you know that as well. You are more than welcome. And again, email me, text me, send me your files, anything that you need. And that is all I have. And we actually got finished a little early. So have an enjoyable rest of the evening. Thank you.